The time is just gone 10 minutes to 9 a.m., and it's time now to focus on 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children. And we're joined this morning by Dr. Tshepo Mvulane Moloi, who is a postdoctoral research fellow, Johannesburg Institute of Advanced Study at the University of Johannesburg. Dr. Moloi, good morning to you, sir, and welcome to News and Views on Salam Media this morning.
Assalamu alaikum Inayet. It's such a pleasure to be on air.
Yes, walaikum to you as well. And Dr. Moloi, let's talk about 16 days of activism. Now, we know that the initiative has been ongoing now for the last 2 weeks or so. And the key issue here is we are being reminded year after year, and it's only when it comes to initiatives such as these that we once again start focusing. Yet this has been a huge problem. It's been a massive problem. It's been an ongoing problem. And, these are just reminders. Where do you think we are at this point in time as far as this campaign is concerned?
Thank you very much for the opportunity once more. So first and foremost, I think the 16 days of activism must be understood in its global context. We take it really from after what was called the Montreal massacre that happened, on the 6th of December in 1989, where a young man called Mac Lepine came in carrying a rifle and shot, killed about 14 women, and basically then turned the gun to himself. And so, that massacre would then usher the United Nations to take out a resolution. And this is where the 16 days of activism comes from. Because the claim is that he said he's anti-feminist. So South Africa now took this resolution to run with it, and we know that President Ramaphosa, made the announcement in 2018 to say, we as South Africa are going to actually commit to not just 16 days, but to 365 days of action against, gender-based violence. Of course, this is debatable given the stats, and I'm hoping we can talk about that next. But we are far from where we should be in terms of justice against sexual offenses, against rape. We're a country where rape is actually not defined conclusively. I was just looking at the notes now that we're sitting in a position where we're saying a legal definition of rape is broad. What is that? But anyway, let me halt there so that we can engage.
Yes, I think interesting that you speak about stats, and perhaps the stats obviously are telling us a completely different picture, a completely different story, despite the initiatives, despite the commitment on the part of the government to eradicate gender-based violence, and also we're talking about children. So I think let's talk about the stats and what picture are these stats painting, Dr. Moloi?
Thank you very much. The stats are really, I think we can say whatever we want in words, but the numbers speak for themselves. So, the SAPS has taken a decision on the 31st of July 2020 that they're going to take out stats every 3 months. This is a decision that was supported by the Institute of Security Studies because they argue the annual stats are not really representative of what's happening on the ground. Anyway, so I looked at the 2019-2020 stats, and these are the figures I have seen reflected. Murders of women and children, just murders, 2019-2020, they equaled to 2,695. Now, this was down from 2,771 in 2018-2019. This means a woman was murdered every 3 hours. I mean, let that sink in. Um, and a total of 943 children were murdered in that same period of 2018, 2019. When I looked at sexual offenses, the broad category of crime, this, it includes basically rape, compelled rape, sexual assault, incest, bestiality, statutory rape, sexual grooming of kids. Now, this category, the stats stand at 53,293 in 2019-2020, which really increased from 52,420 in the 2018-2019 year. The majority of these were rape cases. I mean, that is just how gloomy the picture is. But the total sexual offenses recorded in 2019 and 2020, rape stood at 42,289. Sexual assault stood at 7,749. Attempted sexual offenses stood at 2,076. And contact sexual offenses at 1,179. Total being 53,293. Now, I mean, these stats speak for themselves. You know, government speaks west and they walk east, meaning all these beautiful statements that are being said about we're fighting crime, we are serious about gender based violence, all of it does not translate to what we see from the stats. And we know, of course, that the SAPS is in a mess. I mean, the minister, Begikele, is busy having a lot of infights with his deputies, and this is not helping the situation, really.
Well, certainly, and it's horrific, I think, when one reads into these statistics and try to analyze what is actually happening. Just in your mind, Dr. Moloi, what more should government be doing right now to give urgency to addressing this scourge of gender-based violence?
I think, look, government can only do so much, unfortunately. We can criticize government all we like, but this is a societal phenomenon. This is a matter that so many people need to come together and work with government on, from the ground right up to the national structures. NGOs are doing their part. Sadly, they're not enjoying much support, and it's not translating into any positive action. But I mean, for me, we begin at awareness. Um, I mean, when I think about rape is currently sitting at 72.1% as per the stats of the 2019-2020 report. It then begins to say, what do you mean when you say, we need to talk against domestic violence, and you don't give out any education measures against this? The same report puts Eastern Cape at number one. Now, when you think about Eastern Cape as a province, it's rural. You don't think that there is much education happening, as far and as extensive as it should happen, because it's not an urban area. Majority of it is really people are living in silos and they're still living a rural lifestyle. And it's sitting at number one in terms of domestic violence, rape, um, and this would tell you that clearly our, our awareness campaigns, in whatever form they are not, at the level that they should be. And I think this is where we need to begin, at the educational level of it.
Well, certainly. And also, I think when one looks at the demographics of the country, you cited the case of Eastern Cape being number one, but also looking at these statistics, uh, you know, we know these are cases that we know of. And looking at the demographics of this country, the mixture of rural and urban areas, there's a lot that goes unreported. So the picture could be a lot more serious compared to just the numbers that you have been quoting, Dr. Moloi.
Very true. I mean, of course, I mean, the very reports, they do make the statement and the disclaimer to say none of this can be seen as conclusive. So this is, you're making a very solid point. But back to your point of what else can be done, because I think we can complain all we like, we can talk stats all we like. So for me, let's look at what the government has at least tried to communicate to the public. They say play your part, and under this they say reject and report abuses, act and don't look away. That's number one. Number two, do not protect abusers, report them. Number three, sign the pledge against gender-based violence. Do not engage in abusive activities and become an abuser. So stop abuse. Number four, challenge and denounce cultural practices and that perpetrate gender inequalities. Be sensitive and supportive to gender based violence victims, and share helpful information and support causes near you. So, these are some of the suggestions that the government is putting forth. They add to say seek personal help to change harmful behaviors such as alcohol and substance abuse. Teach children values of gender equality. Protect children from exposure to violence and harmful content, such as what they're seeing on the internet and social media, and the exposure they have to pornography and sexual solicitation. So I think that government is putting across these recommendations to the public. Sadly, this message does not go far and wide and as broad as it should. And also, they themselves, when you say, for example, um, challenge and denounce cultural practices, I've just said Eastern Cape is number one statistically. How do you begin to practicalize such a recommendation? I mean, in a rural
Exactly.
setup, right? So it's really a complex matter.
Well, it certainly is. And Dr. Moloi, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we do appreciate you taking time out and talking to us this morning, sharing what you have and unpacking this problem that we are facing. And as you mentioned right at the outset, it is a global problem as well. But we wish you all the best. We wish you safety. And I'm sure we will be engaging a lot more going into the future.
Inshallah. Thank you very much.
All the best to you, Dr. Tshepo Moloi, joining us this morning. And with that, we're heading for the news. Tabitha Duma at the Alantar newsroom is standing by.